Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking a truly fascinating and honestly highly structured philosophical text by an author named Xu Feng. What we're looking at here is a comprehensive taxonomy of the human mind, specifically how we categorize the nature and the varying levels of human belief. You know, whether you consider yourself deeply spiritual, staunchly scientific, or maybe just entirely indifferent, this source material claims to have a specific rung on the ladder literally just for you. Now, as an explainer, my goal today isn't to tell you what to believe. Absolutely not. It's just to impartially map out this unique framework exactly as the author presents it. To do that, we've got a clear roadmap for us today. First, we'll look at the true nature of faith. Then, individual versus collective belief. Third, two paths, theists and atheists. Fourth, the core hierarchy of beliefs. And finally, number 5, the soul's ultimate compass. So, starting right off with Section 1, the true nature of faith. Right out of the gate, this text challenges our everyday assumptions about what it actually means to hold a belief. Faith, according to the author, refers simply to what is credible, believable, and reliable to you. Reverence, on the other hand, implies admiration, worship, and awe. But here's the absolute core argument. Faith is just the product of the human mind being struck by a certain doctrine, a phenomenon, or maybe a mysterious force. It automatically forms a set of life values in your consciousness. Crucially, the text argues that faith is a creation of the soul. It's not an invention of religion or political parties. In this view, religions and politics are merely catalysts. The idea is that even without them, human beings would still, naturally, possess faith. Moving right along to Section 2, individual versus collective belief, the author draws a really strict, uncompromising line here between what we believe all alone inside our own minds versus what we believe in groups. And this brilliantly illustrates the text's stance on human organization. According to the source, true faith is fundamentally an individual act of consciousness. Collective faith, though, well, that's seen as fragile. The author states that faith established collectively is incredibly hard to endure over time. Basically, if your belief is entirely reliant on a group, that faith is going to dissipate and just vanish into thin air the very moment that specific religion, political party, or organization dissolves. Because faith is an individual creation of the soul, the text argues it takes on countless incredibly diverse forms. We're not just talking about traditional religion here. The author lists communist faith, faith in science, or the belief in the unity of heaven and humanity. But it goes even further than that. Obsessions and adoration of power, status, wealth, fame, or beauty, the text categorizes those as actual faiths too. Surprisingly, even everyday mindsets like seizing the moment, doing the bare minimum, or literally just getting by are defined here as active systems of belief. So if your religion is just, making it to Friday, the author says that totally counts.
Which brings us to Section 3, two paths, theists and atheists.
So with all these vastly different forms of faith floating around, the author divides them into two fundamental opposing camps, theists and atheists, and the text describes their worldviews in stark contrast. Theists are described as humble, believing the universe is created by a god, and relying heavily on an inner moral compass. Because they believe in the cycle of cause and effect, and that some divine presence is watching over them, they're restrained from misconduct. Atheists, conversely, trust in human agency, science, and empirical evidence. The text notes that because atheists view life and death as sheer coincidences and death as eternal rest with zero karmic retribution, they focus literally all their energy on the successes and social standings of this current life. They're described as bold and daring, fearing neither heaven nor earth. Okay, into the main event, Section 4, the hierarchy of beliefs. Having established these two broad paths, we now enter the absolute core of the text framework. So how are all these vastly different beliefs, from the desire for wealth to science to global religions, how are they actually ranked? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it gives us a complete bird's-eye view of the author's proprietary 8-level structure before we climb it step by step. The text ranks human beliefs from what it considers the lowest, most animalistic drives down at level 1, all the way up through worldly concerns, traditional ethics, political organizations, major global religions, and finally arriving at a very specific ultimate convergence at level 8. Let's look at the lowest rungs on this ladder, levels 1 and 2, the worldly beliefs. Level 1 is the law of the jungle. The text describes this as a faith rooted in animalistic thinking, the belief that the victor becomes king, you've got to be ruthless to succeed, and the strong just naturally prey on the weak. Moving up just slightly, we hit level 2. Money is power and profit is paramount. The author actually calls this the faith of the ignorant and the worldly, focused strictly on immediate benefits. The text vividly claims that under enough temptation, this level of faith is what causes government officials to corrupt, police to shield criminals, and sadly, even loving siblings to harm one another just for profit. Let's keep moving up and see how this builds into levels 3, 4, and 5, the traditional beliefs. At level 3, things elevate to integrity and honor. Here, character and dignity actually matter. People still want wealth, sure, but they want to acquire it ethically, and they'll refuse charity if it's given with disdain. Then, level 4 focuses on loyalty and filial piety, which the text notes encompasses the entirety of Confucian teachings. From there, we reach level 5, faith in family, people, nation, party, and religion. The author describes this as the typical faith of mortals, basically the absolute foundation of our political and organizational beliefs. Ascending further, we leave the mortal and political realms entirely and enter the spiritual beliefs. Level 6 is the faith in harmony between heaven and humanity. Rooted deeply in Taoism, this level emphasizes self-cultivation, the concept of non-action, or wu wei, and the conscious reduction of one's own desires. Right above that is level 7, which the text categorizes as faith in greatest creators and Buddhas. This level represents the major global religions of the world, specifically noting Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam. And finally, we reach the absolute pinnacle of the author's hierarchy, level 8, which is faith in Lifechanyuan. To impartially report on the text's conclusion here, the author posits this specific belief system as walking the way of the greatest creator. It's described as the ultimate convergence, a faith built not just on the wisdom of Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and Laozi, but also fully integrating the achievements of modern science. The source material claims this represents the absolute highest level of faith and the ultimate limit of human wisdom. Which leads us to our final section, Section 5, the soul's ultimate compass. So the crucial point is, why does this author spend so much time categorizing literally every human thought into this 8-tier system? Well, the philosophical conclusion of the text is that faith is non-material. It acts as a literal compass for your soul. According to the author, it doesn't matter if you believe in the law of the jungle down at level 1 or major world religions at level 7, the specific nature of your faith operates as a navigator. And ultimately, it's this non-material compass that entirely determines the outcome and the destiny of your life. The source text leaves us with this final, honestly highly provocative thought. Every human being has faith. Without faith, one is no different from a straw dog, a mere animal. Whether you view your own beliefs as a spiritual pursuit, a scientific foundation, or maybe just a way to get by in the world, this explainer highlights just how profoundly our underlying values shape our reality. It certainly leaves us to reflect on exactly which rung of the ladder our own inner compass is currently pointing toward. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating taxonomy with me today.